Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Life Gorgeous. My name is Craigers. It's where I share my magical life in hopes of improving your life. Kyle Theige, Timberwolves fanatic. I like to say podcast personality. How would you like to be introduced, Kyle?
Friend of Craig Kilborn would be good.
Okay.
Minnesota sports fan. Yeah. Just any way you want to describe it. Just what a happy day to be a Minnesota sports fan. When you texted me last night about should we do a pod, I was like, oh God, the Vikings are only 6-point favorites against the Titans, the Wolves, like against that undermanned Suns team. These are two setups, but fast forward and two big wins, especially led by Julius Randle there at the end of the fourth.
And we are recording this about a half hour after the big shot. So we're recording this Sunday. It airs Tuesday. And I'm going to tell you something, and you can pass judgment on me. I do this sometimes. At the end of a game, I'll turn it off in the last few minutes and say, I'll check when the game's over. Then I don't have to go to the roller coaster. And I did that with Ant at the free throw line. He had 2 free throws. I think he would have cut it to 2 or 3 or 2 or something. And then I checked the score and I saw that we won 120 to 117. So then I rewatched, but I don't know. I purposely do not know who hits the winning shot until I saw it. I didn't know. And, they put in Donte and then they put in Julius Randle. But first of all, do you think it's pathetic or okay that I turn it off? Because I have a theory that I get a double win. I get that surprise of, oh my God, we won, because I thought we stole the game. We were being outplayed the whole game, in my opinion.
I'm not upset. I'm disappointed, but I come from a family where my dad does that exact same thing. He'll pace. And then when it gets too close, he'll just turn it off. But because you didn't watch probably, Craig, the last minute or so, you also missed a pretty impressive Jaden McDaniels dunk that kind of.
I saw that.
Oh, you saw it? Okay.
The key. What I do is I get the final score and then I watch everything I didn't see. I see the whole game. I just control it. I'm in control of my universe, but I get a double win. I get the joy of looking and saying, oh my God, we won. And then the double joy of watching it with no stress. Now, I don't do it all the time. I didn't do that up in Sacto with that tremendous win. I watch some, when we're playing well, I watch it live. I thought we were not playing well in this matinee, and Ant does not play well in matinee games.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I'm actually kind of coming around to this in real time, that if they would have lost, you could have just chalked it up and moved on and still enjoyed your Sunday. So I might start doing what you do and just fourth quarter, check the final score, and then run it backwards. But yeah, matinee games, that's a great point. This is year 5 for Ant, and no one has probably struggled more in matinee games. It's just, in an NBA lifestyle, this is the time guys are taking naps.
Yeah.
You shoot around and they take your nap. You kind of have this whole routine. So they came out like a bunch of dudes who needed a nap and just made a ton. Again, I mean, I really want your opinion on this, because the story of the last, week or so, especially when they were in Portland, turnovers. I know how much you appreciate taking care of the ball. Yeah. The turnovers and the dump, how many times did you watch them turn it over on an inbounds pass or an 8-second violation or 2 missed free throws? That stuff's just all low IQ stuff, Craig.
Yeah, I can't stand it. I want to make something clear, Kyle. I turn it off usually the earliest. I mean, I'll turn it off if I've watched so many games. If we're not playing well in the third quarter, I think it's hopeless. I'll turn it off. But I still check the score. I always check the score. Okay. And I'm not fair weather. They're my team. I just know how to. My eyes can't see train wrecks. I can't see these bad moments. I've done it too much where I've watched so much basketball over the years. But when we're playing well, I'll watch the whole game. And then I might play a game with 30 seconds. I'm just going to walk away and check it just because it's so exhilarating to see it. But I don't turn it off. I don't turn it off with 5 minutes left, because I want to see if we win by 10 and I don't even have to turn it off. But it's an art form. I don't think you amateurs out there should try it. I know what I'm doing. Now, let's just talk a little more about this game, and then we'll go to the problem with the turnovers, because I have a couple thoughts. Devin Booker was on fire, just like De'Aaron Fox was.
Yeah.
I'm a proponent of trapping They don't. Finchie doesn't always do it. I think the logic. What do you think his logic is? I think it's then you have somebody's open.
Yeah, and they did, right? They finally did it in the
Yes.
fourth quarter, and
Yes.
it paid off.
Yes.
It was the rare time you can do it. I mean, I would imagine Finch wanted to just be like, yo, Nikhil, Jaden Ant, like, we were the best defense last year for a reason because you could prevent guys from getting to the rim and just being locked down, isolation defenders. But this was kind of that one time you could do it because there was no Kevin Durant. There was no Bradley Beal. If KD or Beal's out there or both, you can't double Booker because then it's just easy spot up shots. So they did do that. They forced guys like Tyus Jones and Grayson Allen to hit shots, and they had a couple there midway through the fourth. But when it got real tight, that last 2 minutes, they just started. I mean, I think Grayson Allen airballed a three, and Tyus Jones came up short on 2 layups. So good coaching. I mean, that's some of the stuff that when you're in game, you're like, Finch, like, throw something else at him. Like, Devin Booker was cooking whoever was on him one-on-one. So once they forced the ball out of his hand, I think that was a major momentum swing late in the fourth.
Yeah, Booker's, he bothered me. I thought he had some dirty plays in the playoffs last year against Ant, and Ant completely outplayed him and KD in the playoffs. Then Ant was starting on the Olympic team, and then Steve Kerr went with Booker. And I have my theories why, a little more consistent than Ant, doesn't need the ball as much, can play that off ball. But he was red hot, and he can get a shot off because he fades away,
Yeah.
So, yeah, did we steal that game?
I think when you look, credit to Alan Horton here, our guy Alan Horton, the Timberwolves led for 12 total seconds against the Phoenix Suns. So, yeah, I think that would be classified as a stolen win on your home court.
Yeah. By the way, I wanted to point out, because we were excited about the game. Kyle, you do a number of podcasts. You're on with the great Dane Moore, which is a very popular podcast, and also Flagrant Howls. You're thought of highly as far as well, you have a great sense of humor, and you love the Timberwolves, and you love the Vikings. We'll talk a little Vikings in a little bit. But did I read somewhere that you did some radio up in Portland with Alan Horton, the radio voice of the Timberwolves?
Yeah, I was thinking when you were joking about turning games off a little early, you probably just turned that Blazers game off before it started on Tuesday or Wednesday, because those were terrible games. But yeah, Alan Horton, the great Alan Horton, Wolves Radio on Twitter, let me do halftime kind of thing, sound bites. I did about 4 minutes at halftime each game, and it's probably my new favorite thing to do. I would quit everything else, my job, my podcasting, just to do radio. And also, I think you listened to a couple of these, but as good as Jim Pete and Michael Grady are calling the games on TV, if you ever get a chance to listen to Alan Horton call the game, he's a one-man show, and it's fantastic. He's really smart. So it was an honor to do about 8 total minutes of radio with the great Alan Horton.
Are you telling the Wolves fans to turn down Jim Pete? And,
No, Jim loves this pod, so I know he's listening. Great stuff by Jim and Grady, but Alan is just the best. But he needed to, because he kind of made those 2 stinkers, and that was a rough 28 hours in Portland. Craig,
yeah, I wanted to ask you. Let's move off of this great great win over the Phoenix Suns that we stole. And Ant did come alive in the second half. I also like that Donte finally hit his shot. Donte DiVincenzo. We're not there yet. We're going to talk about the work in progress. But what the hell happened in Portland? We lost that terrible, terrible game with the 8-point lead at home to Miami. And then we didn't. What happened? You were there. You live in Portland.
I think I read a stat that like 65% of these weird like back-to-backs in the same city, like it's a split. So you're probably thinking, even though Portland's kind of a bad lottery team, that it's okay, whatever, they'll be okay with a split. But after they lost on Tuesday in embarrassing fashion, I mean, they were run off the court in the first game of the in-season tournament. You thought they would come out Wednesday and be like, all right, let's do this again. And through 12 minutes, they did 33-23 at the end of one. And then they just regress to all the things that drive you crazy. Bad shots, turnovers, not getting rebounds, no real effort. So yeah, that's probably the low point of the season thus far, maybe all season. And when we look back, but then to do what they did on Friday night in Sacramento, I know they blew a 20-point lead, and you can tell me what you thought about that late in the game, but at least they were able to kind of correct themselves. And I think that win on Friday probably help them have a little confidence tonight that, like, okay, we can come back. We can figure this out late in the fourth against a good Suns team.
Yeah. So I think my overall opinion, I'm gonna get into something specific in a second, but my overall opinion is we made this trade.
Yep.
We traded away Cat. I'm a Cat fan. By the way, do you watch him with the Knicks or do you?
Oh yeah, every Knicks game is pretty much appointment TV now, along with the Wolves.
Hey, me too. That's how much I love Cat. I'm so happy he's scoring so well, and I'm excited. When Mitchell Robinson gets back, I think that'll help the defense a little bit. But I just think it's going to take a while to adjust and figure this thing out. And I hope the chemistry is there. I believe it will be. We all fell in love with Donte DiVincenzo in the preseason, but he hasn't started hitting. He hasn't hit a shot until today. He had 5 threes. But it could be a long year. But I heard what Finchie said the other day. You know, it's going to come around, and the shots are going to start falling. And I like Julius Randle. But ultimately, I usually put it on Ant. I did that last year before the playoffs. I said, we're going to go as far as Ant can take us. And, you know, he's pretty special. Not all the time. Still takes some bad shots. What do you think the Wolves are going to do this season, and what's the key to getting the chemistry going?
That's a great question. I've always kind of joked with Dane and others about how there's those first 4 years that Ant was here, he always had like a really good professor, like 4 years of college. He had Ricky Rubio for his rookie year, and he had Pat Bev, and D'Lo, despite his faults, was always in his ear, kind of teaching him, maybe giving him a little confidence as a young kid. Then he has Pat Bev, and now he graduates to Mike Conley. But we're in year 5 now, and most people, except for me, who did 6 years for college, like kind of graduate and move on. And I think you can point at, you know, the point guard stuff. Was Mike cold to start? Has Jaden been bad at times? Donte can't hit a 3. But you do kind of have to, at some point, right, Craig? Like, if you're the face of the franchise, it's more than just who's on the brochures or the tickets. It's like, you know, in football, as we talk about the Vikings, when they win, Sam Darnold gets a lot of credit. And when they lose, everyone points at him. And that's kind of how I approach this Wolves season is, you know, Devin Booker was undermanned tonight without his 2 stars next to him, and KD and Beal. And he's just like, you know what? I just have to try to go get 50. And for Ant, I think he kind of did that against the Kings for a bit. And again, tonight he got hot. But at some point, he just has to be like, man, things aren't working. I have to do even more. Yeah, I'm exhausted, but I kind of got to give it 130% until we can kind of right the ship. You can't do it all year, but I'm with you. He's awesome, and we love the kid, but I think he's graduated now to stardom where when things don't go right, it's probably okay to point at him first because you expect more from him than you do from Mike Conley or Nikhil or Donte.
Yeah. And he's definitely, I know he changed, as I pointed out, he did change his form. He may not admit it, but he did because it's more in front, and he's shooting more threes and better threes, but he still will take some really bad shots. And that's why I love Jim Pete, because he goes, that's not a good shot. You can get a better shot than that. So that's frustrating. Here's a laser beam I'm going to throw at you. I'm going to focus in on something. So I don't know, and you probably will. And again, I want to point out to people that Kyle doesn't live in Minnesota. He moved away to Portland, but he is a Wolves and he's a Vikings fan. He's a Minnesota guy. Will you ever move back to Minnesota, or
only if you do? Will you move back?
You're funny.
You don't. The West Coast time zone is
no.
like
I love the West Coast. But okay, here it is. So tell me. I don't know who these people are, but I've heard about them for quite a while. This is a Twitter account or an X account called Punch Drunk Wolves. Do you know these people?
Yes, that's Andy. He's a longtime Timberwolves blogger. Kind of came up with me, and he's a really good dude.
Okay. This is a tweet that he did 2 days ago. Might have been a day ago. A take I'm workshopping is not all that clever or unique, but I think we need a viable point guard on the floor the entire game. Seems like Spoelstra's full court spaz press was a signal to the league that this team thinks it can cheat a position from the classic lineup. And this was, you know, after a week after the Miami Heat game. This was a couple days ago. And I fully agree with him. You can, go ahead.
I also tweeted out, not that well worded, something during one of the Blazers games that, like, I think the league all of a sudden has discovered a trend against the Wolves to just full court them the whole time. And Mike Conley started for the Wolves on Tuesday when they got blown out. They did it to him. They did it when Nikhil or Donte brought the ball up on Wednesday with no Mike Conley. They also kind of threw Rob Dillingham into the mix. And I thought Rob actually handled the pressure better than anyone. Those are probably two different things, like just the concept of getting pressed full court for 48 minutes. Rob can, I think, break that. But I think to Andy's point at Punch Drunk Wolves, they just need Craig. I love this team and I love a lot of the guys, and they're still pretty young, and it's not an excuse, but I still wonder about like where they would rank amongst 30 teams in the league in basketball IQ, like collectively, because they don't do a lot of smart stuff all the time. And like when Mike's not out there and maybe Rudy's sitting, like who is the smartest all around basketball IQ guy, right? Like Tyus Jones, you always think of him, or Ricky Rubio. Yeah. So I think Andy's right. I think they need to have, whether it be a point guard or just, some sort of floor general. Tonight, Jim Pete did his top 5 floor generals in the league. That stuff still matters. Like, yes, you can play 5 out and switching and play a bunch of guards and forwards, but you need someone out there that when shot clock is coming down or like there's a 7-0 run, that'll get your guys in really good sets. And Mike is still hands down the most professional person on the team to do that, because he's kind of like the quarterback of the offense.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And I mean, you can get away with it for a while with Naw bringing it up or Donte. I actually think it throws off Dante's shot. It changes his responsibility. That has been pointed out, that it will throw off a guy's shooting if he's not a true point guard. It has to bring it up. Last year, Devin Booker, I think, played point. He's not a true point guard. They got swept in the playoffs by your Minnesota Timberwolves. So the problem is we have 2 point guards. I am grateful that they're playing Rob Dillingham. I may say at some point during the season, oh, he's not ready. I'm not there at all. I'm so excited. Now, I know for a fact, because he's so cat quick and he's a point guard, that he can bring the ball up against pressure. Mm-hmm. That's not my concern. He'll do it better than Mike Conley at this point, but he's so fast. It's in the half court, the decisions, the shot. I think he got swallowed up when he drives because he's diminutive, but I want to see him play. I'm so glad. I just think he's explosive, and I want to see him. I want to see him play, and I may pull that back later, but not now. Full speed ahead, and I want to see Donte play.
And, on the Nikhil and Donte stuff, that's a really good point you brought up, because Nikhil was pretty obvious in his spot start for Mike against the Blazers on Wednesday. Like, Dane kind of pointed this out. You can get sped up. So when you do get pressed full court, like you start to just dribble up the ball faster. And then once you get by your guy, you're like, oh, I have this advantage. But it's like, yeah, but you're only 4 seconds into the shot clock. Like, pull it back out and now get something. No, I think that exactly. I think the best point guards in the league do. I mean, Chris Paul will do that all the time. Like, there's a difference between getting the ball up across the timeline to avoid an 8-second count and then just like then pulling it out and having that structure. So yeah, with Rob, I think he knows that. But the one thing that's hurting him right now is I don't know if he's just full on and like, I'm a rookie, I'm 19, like I'm surrounded by so many talented guys, but he's not really looking for a shot much. I mean, he's not looking for a shot. Right. Not at all. And if you don't do that, I mean, no offense to a player that we all loved during his time in Minnesota, but you're kind of then Jordan McLaughlin. And it's like, we need more from you than that. So I think when Rob's out there, Craig, the ball zips around. He's probably this week had 12 potential assists. Jim Pete pointed this out. And I think he's gotten 0 of them, like 12 passes that led to really good looks, and all his teammates missed them. So that'll just, regress a little bit to the norm. But I need him out there for 8 to 10 minutes a game, because I think he just gives you a little something. Because I want Donte to play more like Malik Beasley than I want him to play like Mike Conley. I want him to run around screens and take threes tonight. Probably had his least amount of ball responsibility, and he hit 5 threes. Like, that's what his game is. Nikhil is still more of an on-ball defender, spot-up three-point shooter. So I'm with you. Maybe this will change. Maybe if Rob goes through a shooting slump in December, you and I will get back on here and say, hey, let's give him a break, send him to Iowa. But I think for now he has to be the 9th man in what should be a 9-man rotation.
Yeah. I want him to play like Allen Iverson and John Morant. I
Yeah,
want
just do
I want
that.
him to be I want him to be really special. But no, he's a 19-year-old in a 13-year-old's body. But anyway, he's very tiny.
Yes, that's a good way to put it.
So I hope the Wolves come around. I think they will. And they've had some inspirational wins, twice against Sacramento, a couple home games against some good teams. Again, we beat Denver, but it definitely is a work in progress, isn't it? It's not clicking yet, correct?
Yeah, it's not clicking. You're trying to just find, I know there's a lot of teams, Craig, that made transactions this offseason that have new players, but none of those teams, other than the New York Knicks, made such a drastic change that close to the beginning of preseason training camp. And you watch the Knicks, like you and I just said we do, they're struggling with chemistry or just, the biggest takeaway through what now, 13 games or whatever it is for the Wolves is that they're always a half second short or a half step slow. Like it's not a full step. It's not this egregious thing. It's a half step. That's probably just the chemistry leaking out. Like they don't know exactly where Donte is going to be or how fast he's going to come around to curl. They don't know exactly where Julius wants the ball on like a post up. Those things will take a little time. And I know the West is brutal. And you're like, I don't know how much time you have to figure that out. But an 82 game season is, in my mind, Craig, way closer to baseball, like 162 than it is the NFL. Maybe you dropped 2 games against Portland that you should have won, but then you followed up with, that Kings game in Sacramento is a tough win. And then yesterday you were 7-point favorites against no KD, no Booker or Beal, but you stole that too. So they're figuring it out on the fly.
Yeah.
Chris said he wanted to use these next 10 games from the start of Portland to the end of November to find an identity. And maybe slowly but surely they're trying to find that hierarchy between, the 1 through 9 and also get Julius a little more involved on a defense that those first 10 games, there was a lot of back cuts that were kind of his fault.
Yeah. So as far as the turnovers, I have this theory, and I've told you guys before, you call it, you're questioning their basketball IQ. I'm just saying it's the ability to pass. It's an ability. It's not I don't think it's an IQ thing. And it's like Jaden McDaniels is an athlete who's worked on his dribbling and has worked on his shooting, and they're just going to turn the ball over. I don't have the answer. I know one of my answers is, I remember Finchie said a year ago, we're not going to have a player with 12 to 14 assists, which is, of course, I love that. Ricky Rubio, John Stockton, Magic Johnson, Chris Paul, because then when they turn it over, it doesn't, when Mike Conley turns it over, it surprises me, but it doesn't bother me because he's, he knows what he's doing.
Right.
Now I will say that I do enjoy the 5-player ball movement that the San Antonio Spurs would do with Duncan when they beat the Heat. They would high pick and roll. Duncan would flash. He'd get in the middle and kick it out to 3. But I just don't think we have these players that are great at passing. That's my opinion. So I don't know if Nas or Jaden will ever be great passers, though I want them to be good passers. Yes, they've worked on their lobs to Rudy, but I just think it's better when Mike Conley handles the ball. Ant's got to keep working on his floor game. And then I hope Rob Dillingham, I hope he develops. You can see, as much as I love Donte, boy, does he turn it over when he drives, huh?
Yeah, I know. And that goes back to, I think there's this, and I know you agree with this, kind of learning how your basketball brain works. There's a difference between like being a point guard and being a playmaker.
Yeah.
Like those are two different things. And I think Donte is a pretty good playmaker.
Yeah.
But I don't think he's as much of a point guard. So yeah. And anytime you say low hoops IQ, it sounds like you're calling him dumb. And that's definitely not what I'm trying to say. But
that's not America. That's not what Kyle's trying to do.
But against Portland, there was multiple times like they would inbound the ball and it would get deflected out of bounds, right? So 3 seconds in. Well, now you have 5 seconds to get it across the timeline. And they didn't do it. It's like you got to know that there's 21 left on the shot clock. I got to get it across half court. And Donte didn't do it, and Julius didn't do it.
Yeah.
Or, inbounding to Rudy Gobert. Or like there was a Kings turnover where Ant was trying to lob it to him. He saw De'Aaron Fox cheating. Just little things like that.
Oh,
Finch has got to
stand that. Yeah.
Yeah. Finch has got to clean some stuff up for sure. maybe install some more structure, but Finch can't pass the ball in. I mean, even tonight, Nikhil had a late game travel where he jumped up in the air. You know this better than anyone. You don't jump in the air when you're trying to make a pass.
Dude, that was weird. He dribbled under the basket, probing, came to the free throw line, then did a dramatic jump stop. And I said, did you not feel that was a travel? They call a travel on him. They took him out immediately. Yeah, it's and the other factor with the turnovers is we all know that it's an adventure if you feed Rudy. It could be a turnover at any moment because he's very limited offensively. And I know we get giddy when he makes a play, but let's just calm down. So I will say there are games where somehow we concentrate and we just are sharp and we don't turn it over that much. We haven't gotten there, but we've done it last year in the playoffs where they weren't really a problem. Maybe it was, I don't know, maybe guys concentrate more. But, man, it drives Craigers up the wall, the turnovers. Drives me up the wall.
During your heyday, and people that listen to the Life Gorgeous know that you at one time were a pretty solid basketball player. Did you ever play with a big?
Yeah.
Like, did you ever have a big guy? Like, did you ever have like conversations about where? I mean, this is like a football analogy again with wide receivers. But did a big guy ever tell you like, "Hey, I like to catch the ball up here because if I try to catch it down low, everyone's just going to swat at it."
Yeah. I like your mic. You just turned it on. It sounds even better. It's just great. It sounds great. So I when I played at Montana State, I was a very good passer and a good shooter, and I joke, even though I don't fully believe it, that I wasn't a great defensive player. You know, the defensive stance hurt my lower back. But I told people this, but I would, in addition to just passing, there was a specific thing I would do is I would feed the post. And because it makes the defense shift. And it doesn't mean he has to shoot. He can kick it back out. But if he's open, you feed it because it makes everyone sag and the guys are open. And I did this one pass where they fronted him on the left side. I'm on the left wing. And if he just went to the right under the basket, like if I lobbed it over to the right side, he'd have a layup because the guy was fronting him. So I did that. And Trig Johnson from Anoka, Minnesota at Montana State went over and got the ball and laid it in. And the next day in practice, the head coach, Stu Steiner, this is very dramatic. He said, Greg Kilborn feeds the post. And he's the best passer feeding the post on this team. He's better than you, Jeff. He's better than you, Phil. He's better than you. And he went down and went all the way around. But it was very funny. But, yeah, you don't throw it at their feet. You throw it at their chest or up here where they can get it. And now, Rudy's a different story because we don't want him to make a low post move unless he dunks on somebody.
Right.
But I'm really open to Julius Randle posting up and taking up some of the scoring like he did today. That was refreshing to see him score. You know, he only hit 31% on threes last year, but one year he shot, I think, 40. So we'll just keep getting him going. Donte will get going. And we'll see what happens. I mean, if I will tell you something, if Rob Dillingham develops his rookie year, we're late in the season, we know he's going to come in and spark the team a little bit. That would be pretty amazing. So we got a long way to go.
Yeah. And on the Julius point, he's about as good in the low post as we've seen in Minnesota since probably like Nikola Pekovic. I mean, he really just gets the ball and like puts you in the rim. And that was I mean, he'll never be the shooter Carl was, but that was a gripe about Carl, right? Is you could guard Carl with a guard sometimes or a wing and just kind of get away with it. You can't get away with throwing a small player at Julius. He'll make you pay. Tonight, this kind of went away against the Blazers, but tonight you saw again, he'll bully you in the post, he'll draw a double, and then he'll kick it. And that's like some of the best offense you can do. Get a second guy on you, then kick it around the rotation or around the perimeter, find an open three.
Do you rewatch the games? Like when we're done here, I'm going to go rewatch the fourth. And
every single game. And I because I think you and I are invested in it. We get emotional, like we've talked about every now and then. Maybe we have a martini, but I want to watch it again without social or like look for plays. So I like watching them the morning after before I go to work or whatever. And because I think you do learn a lot. I've always said that for younger people trying to cover sports. Like I think you learn a lot that second time you watch it, things that you might have missed in the heat of the moment.
I'll give you one thing that when I rewatched, it was pretty tough. And I have a question to see if you saw it or not. So the Sacramento game went to overtime, and before it went to overtime, we had the ball, and Ant drove and kicked to Jaden for a jumper that would have won it. As he drove, Sabonis came over.
Mm-hmm.
At the last second, he could have lobbed it to the left to Rudy.
Yep, he could have.
Did you see that?
Yep.
And did you think he should have? Because it may have been maybe it happened so late that Sabonis came, or maybe he goes, maybe instinctively he knows it's too dangerous to throw it to Rudy. He might fly off his hands.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up, because yes, there was a second there. Ant has gotten better at, as what I call speaking French, getting the ball to Rudy, but I don't know if he was that fluent in that moment of the game. And, I'm a Jane McDaniels guy. I know he's been shooting really poorly all season, but it's hard to get a better look than that in the corner.
I know.
And if he hits that, I think we say, what a great shot by Jaden. What a great play by Finch, and what an amazing look. But you're right. And I wonder if some of that is just late game, last possession. Like, is Rudy going to catch it? Is he going to make his free throws? Although he's been doing really well this season from the line, but he did have a chance. And that is a part of his game that's gotten better, Craig. Yeah. But if it gets really good, or if it levels up, him having that 2-man game with Rudy, I mean, that's Mike's bread and butter. If Ant can have some more of that and find him on the short roll and stuff, it's going to make it really hard to defend. Right. And then it'll open up for Donte and for Jaden and Nikhil.
Right. And my initial thought live was Ant made the right play. He threw it to the open guy. Yeah. Now, in hindsight, I said, I wish that would have been Donte in the corner.
But that's a real thing, right? Like, you can critique Finch for that of, Jaden wasn't shooting well that game. Should he have even been in?
Right.
Maybe not. But if you get an open corner 3 in a tie game in the NBA, that's a pretty good bet that you're going to hit it. And he just didn't. But in Ant's defense, then he just went kind of supernova in the final 5 minutes and said, fine, I'll just do it myself. Give me the ball. Unbelievable. He's so good.
Let's go to the Vikes, because I want to keep this thing moving, because I got things. You got a Sunday dinner, and you mentioned a martini, and now I have an obligation to have one. So. Did you see the Vikes?
I did see the Vikes. Shouldn't have been that close. Kind of the second week in a row where they're kind of playing with their food a little bit, but their defense in 2 games on the road have given up 20 total points against floundering Jacksonville and Tennessee, but. That defense right now, you want to talk about identity? The identity of the Minnesota Vikings right now is the defense. While they try to sort out, I saw today on the call, I think the Vikings lead the league right now in turnovers or giveaways. Yeah. Just too many, if they could just clean that up, man, KOC has this thing humming. So that's something to look at moving forward, is can they take care of the ball?
Is Sam Darnold mobile?
I don't know. That's a great question. He did spin out today a couple times.
No, the spin out was the one. No, I think he's mobile. I just, because that's one of my big criticisms of Kirk is Jimmy Garoppolo moves better than he does. Sam Darnold, the spin out was great. The run, I like him. And he's fun to watch. And I know he throws it away, turns it over, but he's pretty good. So let me ask you this. I always look to see how dominant the other teams are. And it appears that Detroit's, dominant. Yeah. I don't know about Philly. I know they have a good record. So what's your prediction for the playoffs for the Vikings? 1 win, 0 wins, 2 wins? What's your prediction?
I think I would answer your question with a kind of a question of what type of Aaron Jones are they going to get come playoff time, whether they're on the road or in a dome. Like today, for example, I think Aaron Jones had a 2.7 yards per carry and only had 38 yards.
Yeah.
Aaron Jones is not the best player on the team. He's not even the best second or third offensive player. You got Jefferson and Addison and Hawkinson. But I think KOC really wants to lean into the run. And when you're setting up the run, it makes it a lot easier for Sam to throw those play action passes. So that's another thing I want to keep an eye on. They did not run the ball today very well. And I think that's why it was kind of close.
Yeah.
Detroit, as you mentioned, Goff is cooking. They have a lot of talent too, but their identity is just running the football and beating you up at the line. So I think the Vikings need to find a way to establish that run again a little bit and make Sam's life a lot easier. But if they can run the ball, they have a playoff defense, right? They have superstars that, Justin Jefferson can break one at any time. Addison today takes that slant to the house. So I think they can win and beat anyone in the NFC. Maybe not the Lions, but the Lions are probably going to be, the top team in the NFC. So if you can avoid Detroit as long as you can, they can beat Green Bay. They can beat anyone in the NFC East, and they can beat anyone in any other division. So stay healthy, run the ball, and just get Justin Jefferson, timely throws when you need them.
I actually agree. And what I do is I jump to the NFC Championship game at Detroit. And all I say is upset. Maybe we can upset them. I mean, we know Detroit's good. We'll be the underdogs. Maybe there's a scheme. Maybe we could do something. I do like Cam Akers, by the way. I've always liked
Cam
too.
Akers. Yeah.
I'm a little down today on Jalen Naylor for dropping a touchdown pass. Did you see that or not?
Right through his hands, right?
Right through his hands.
Yeah, that was crazy.
I'm glad they replayed it. I was like, didn't that go right through his hands? Yes, it did. It went right through his hands. So yeah, I'm with you. I know Detroit's dominant, but there's something, and I always say Dan Campbell keeps you in the game because he goes for it on fourth down all the time. But yeah, I'm jumping ahead. We could lose in the first round or whatever, but or the wild card. I don't know if we're a wild card. One other NFL thing, and we're going to wrap it up because I know I just wanted to do a quick one with you because of the Wolves and the Vikes.
Yep.
And so my Patriot friends say that Drake May looks good. So they're kind of, it's hard to find that quarterback.
Uh-huh.
Do you have any opinion on JJ McCarthy or not yet? It's too early, right?
You talk to people, this is kind of talking to Phil Mackey and some of his friends that work around the team or with the team. Phil does a great job covering the Vikings. They love the kid.
I know.
His personality and his, I mean, obviously everything for him right now is off the field, but off the field, he's like a sponge. He's a great teammate. He's trying to learn. We'll see what happens. Obviously, he had this second little knee cleanup thing this week, and you don't really know what that's about. Obviously, you just need him healthy next August, but I think he's going to be the real deal. This whole class, you said Drake May, obviously Jaden Daniels and what Caleb Williams has shown. Yeah. Even Bo Nix, right, has shown you a lot for a Broncos team that's pretty good. So I think JJ McCarthy is going to be the real deal. I think he's going to kind of be like Sam Darnold without seeing the ghosts type thing, So I'm excited to watch him play in year 2 because as KOC has shown, Craig, KOC wins games with Josh Dobbs and all Nick Mullins. You put a real first-round quarterback in there that doesn't have some of the scars that Sam has, and this offense could be. This offense can be as good as Detroit next year. Yeah,
my only concern, because I think he has all the skill and talent, is physically he's a little slender, slight of frame.
Yeah,
and I'm just hoping that he's durable. That's my only thing right now. I hope that he's durable
and protect him. Just keep him protected like they do in Washington with Jaden Daniels, who's also kind of small.
Did go back to the Wolves?
Mm-hmm.
Did Julius Randle push off on Josh Okogie on that shot?
Let's throw it back to, did Michael Jordan push off against Byron Russell?
Well, that's a good answer because my point is Josh acted.
Yep.
And you would never call that as what I'm saying? With the game on the line, somebody flopping like that. But Julius Randle always uses his forearm and somehow oftentimes gets away with it. That's how he plays. It's bully ball.
Did you think the first time you watched it, did you think that it left his fingers before it went to 0? Because I thought it was late.
Great question. I saw it. I go, that's close. But I think it's, and I thought it was maybe 0.1 or 0.2. Isn't that kind of what it was on the replay? Was it like 0.2 or where was it?
It feels like it was between 0.1 and 0. It was about as close as you can get for a guy that has a little slower of a shot mechanics, but in real time, I was like, that's too good to be true. And then Timberwolves scar tissue was like, oh, they're going to review it and probably call a foul. But no, that's an incredible shot with, I think, 2.7 seconds left to not get Ant the ball. And then to have a second option is Julius and to get a good shot. Like he said, he's comfortable taking that. So a big shot from Julius Randle.
Game ball to Joe Ingles.
You saying that just reminds me, I haven't really talked to you since we were both in LA for the Bronny Jr. debut in opening night. And I got to talk to Joe. Joe Ingles you would love him. He is,
I know,
he is the funniest player on the team by a mile. And I think they need that because they get a little they get a little in their own head, especially guys like Nas and Jaden and stuff. So to have someone that's just a jokester being like, guys, one game, let's figure it out. Game ball to him, or maybe a game ball to Jaden McDaniels had that dunk that if we're going to look at the 2-minute report tomorrow, and Julius got marginal contact, there's going to be a missed foul on Plumlee on that Jaden McDaniels poster dunk.
Yeah, that was a great play. I love that they bring in Joe Ingles to throw it in at the end of the game.
I know they should just have him always throw the ball in and then just let him run back to the bench, because that would erase a lot of my stress.
Hey, did I ever do with you, as we wrap this up, top 3 sandwiches? Did I ever do that with you?
Oh my God. I thought you'd never ask. No, you haven't. We've done the movies, but never sandwiches.
Okay. So this is one of my, we're going to wrap it. This is an abbreviated Life Gorgeous quiz, simple questions, profound insights. This remains one of my favorite questions. We've been doing it for a while. Top 3 sandwiches of all time for Kyle Theige, big Wolves fan, lives in Portland, funny guy, great Twitter account, X account. Top 3 sandwiches of all time. He's got a little strobe light going over there. I like that.
Okay. I'll give it to you in order too.
Oh,
so at number 3, it's going to be a grilled cheese.
Oh,
winter. I mean, Craig and I live on the West Coast, so we're a little privileged. But even out here, the wind kind of gets a little colder. There's nothing better from about October 15th to March 15th than a grilled cheese and tomato soup. So I'm going to put grilled cheese at 3.
Any particular bread?
A nice sourdough grilled cheese would be fire. Again, if it's just a grilled cheese naked with no soup, then I'm out. But if you give me the combo,
okay,
I don't just want Ant, I want Ant and Julius. So give me those at 3. Number 2, probably my neighbors, my best friends are from Philly. Probably a Philly cheesesteak. Could be chicken or beef, whatever you want to do. But a Philly cheesesteak at number 2, and then number 1. I'm a Reuben guy. It's not gonna be number 1. I mean, growing up, man, this is easy. And I know this is not classy. This is maybe not the Life Gorgeous brand, but I'm such a big peanut butter and jelly guy that that's kind of like late night after a Wolves win after this. I'm going to go make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, rewatch the game, and have a really good end to my Sunday.
How youthful of you to say that answer. Yeah, Reuben is that's the one I always go with. I also like a tuna melt. And I do like chicken. I like chicken salad. I have one cold sandwich. I like the red onions, the cheddar on toasted rye. I like chicken salad. But yeah, I'm going to have a martini tonight with a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I mean,
speaking of the martinis, I was hanging out with your guy, Dane Moore, the other night in Minnesota. We did a little live show at a casino, and they gave us free drinks, including martinis. Where are you at? You are the most prolific guy in my life when it comes to martinis. Where are you at with espresso martinis?
Awful. Terrible.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
No, I loathe sugar. I loathe sugar.
Okay. That's fair.
They're very unhealthy. They also have espresso. They have caffeine and sugar. I mean, just run far away, hide. But, they're very popular and all the young people are grooving on them, So
you're just a dirty martini guy, no extra stuff. Just give it.
Yeah, well, I don't even do dirty. I did dirty when I was in my 30s. Women like dirty, olive juice in there. I do olives. They can be blue cheese, which are fun. I sometimes do a twist in the summer. I do vodka. Occasionally, I do a little vermouth. It's not officially a martini without vermouth. And the classic martini has gin, but I don't drink gin. So there you go.
Okay.
Vodka up, 3 olives. Vodka up with the twist, ice cold. And we're cleansing. Thank you, sir. That was fun.
Thank you, sir.
I can't believe we won that game.
Big day. Good day to be a Minnesota sports fan.
We'll see you next time. Hey, thank you for Kyle Theige. We'll see you next time, young people. Remember, I'm proud of you.
I love the Life Gorgeous. It's also so tight.